This video essay will attempt to outline a possible framework that can be used to understand the importance of Sikh culture, recognize Sikh culture, and make critical judgments on the validity and importance of any given piece of culture using art as the example. Religion, or indeed any philosophy that forms the basis of how people live their life, is often at odds with cultural values and norms. The Sikh community often sees culture as separate from Sikhi and on occasion opposed to Sikh values. An example of this can be certain values of South Asian culture, such as ostentatious weddings, the acceptance of the caste system, and nepotism, which are a sharp contrast to Sikh ideology. Culture is the lens through which one views the world, and it influences our views, our hopes, our worries, our humour, our fears. Sikhs have a unique way of life and identity, and therefore, in order to build a successful nation, it is important to know what imbibes Sikh culture and what does not. It is important to define Sikh culture so it can be celebrated and provide the Sikh nation an understanding of itself and its situation in the world. There have been many attempts to define culture. Between 1994 and 2001, a critical review on concepts and definition of culture was undertaken by the anthropologists Kuba and Klakhorn, and they compiled a list of 164 different definitions and summarized that there is no agreement among anthropologists regarding its nature. Broadly speaking, all the definitions seem to split culture into three areas: achievement culture, such as products, literature, art, music, architecture; behavioral culture, customs, habits, dress, foods, and leisure; and ideological culture, ideas, beliefs, values, and institutions. The levels of culture and their interaction provides an illustration for this interplay between values, culture, and art. The debate over the definition of culture is often over which area is more important. Whereas science is focusing on discovering and enhancing our understanding of the world, culture helps to develop individuals and wider society. On an individual level, culture gives us a better quality of life by enriching our emotional world, by entertaining demanding lives with enjoyment, and educating us by affecting our values and therefore our overall identity of ourselves. Culture also greatly elevates the wider society by helping to create a definition for our personal and national identity. Economically speaking, culture massively affects where skilled workers choose to contribute, as culture provides a deeper reward than just financial gain. Within culture, art is the perfect driving force to influence the values within society. It is therefore the main focus for this paper, as art is one element which can provide us with a framework from which we can apply to other elements of culture in order to understand them. Before Sikh art can be discussed, it is important to define the boundaries. What does and what does not qualify as Sikh art? Sikh art can be defined as art that is for Sikhs, by Sikhs, and of Sikhs. It can include paintings, murals, sculptures, manuscripts, graphics, metalwork, installation art, weapons, textiles, and other items of exceptional beauty and workmanship. Art itself can be categorized into three areas: literary, performing, and visual arts. Examples of the literary arts include novels or creative non-fiction writing, such as by Veer Singh Sundari, fiction like Under the Moonlit Sky by Nav K. Gill, and poetry such as Sisters of the Spinning Wheel by Professor Puran Singh. The performing arts include music, through the forms of Tarmageet, Tadiwar and Gurbani Kirtan, and theatre such as Raja Lakdata by Bhai Singh and Banda Singh Bahadur by Sant Singh Sekhon. Thirdly, the visual arts, which are more common and include paintings such as those by Kirpal Singh, sculptures by artists such as Harminder Singh Boparai, mixed media such as the book Sometimes Small Zain by Baljinder Kaur, and installation art as seen as Virasati Khalsa in Anandpur Sahib. Appreciations and knowledge of the arts is subjective, and how a work of art is perceived will vary from person to person. Different societies with their varying traditions of art means music, literature and fine art can elicit varying emotional impacts and meanings that depend on which country you originate from. Appreciation of art can also change over time. Just take the example of the time when Shakespeare was writing. Critics regarded other writers such as John Fletcher and Ben Jonson to be far more talented. Now, Shakespeare is almost universally regarded as the greatest writer who ever lived, not just in England but throughout the world. So if the appreciation of art can change over time, it makes it extremely difficult to develop a consistent method. In order to develop a somewhat dependable method for analyzing, assessing and appreciating art, it will be useful to talk about the 4 elements pertaining to any art being discussed. That is, the technical skill, the knowledge and the artistic style, authenticity, the genuine personal emotion, and the content, which can be split into 2 parts. Using the Venn diagram which we looked at earlier, we can split this into the influences of ideological culture, in other words, what exactly is the message being conveyed, and the work's context within the culture, or the influence of behavioral culture. And finally, the composition, how the content is being conveyed. In combination, these are all important elements in the creation of good art. Due to the scope of this video essay, we will not be exploring composition or technical skill, as there is already well-established research on these areas and can be easily drawn from outside of this essay. Therefore, we will be focusing on content and authenticity. Showcasing art as Sikh art has caused a lot of debate and great tension in art galleries and institutions around the world. All of the art being discussed in the debates is whether or not it is Sikh art. Seems to fit into 3 distinct groups: art featuring Sikhs, in other words, of Sikhs, art created by Sikhs, and art inspired by, or created to inspire, Sikh thought. The first group has historically been either paintings from the Bahari style, the Mughal style, or the company style. In the Bahari style, the paintings often feature the Sikh gurus wearing a tilak, a Brahman's symbol of wisdom. Although this deception may be a result of cultural influence, where art depicting the Sikh gurus were created by non-Sikhs, it can also be an intentionally destructive choice made by the artist. The Guru's mission was to destroy the Hindu caste system, not to represent it. We see similar issues of the Sikh Gurus being featured in the Mughal art with the hookah, smoking pipe, again in opposition to the Sikh way of life. The second group is the art created by a Sikh. For example, one of the UK's most popular Sikh artists is Amandeep Singh, aka Inquisitive Illustration, who not only paints Sikh imagery but also creates multi-faith art regularly. For many, his work would be automatically seen as Sikh art, as he belongs to a Sikh group. However, for some, including myself, his work insufficiently depicts the Sikh spirit and its depth. And Sikh imagery and symbolism alone is not sufficient in the making of great Sikh art. But it is Sikh art nevertheless. The third group revolves around evoking Sikh ideology and Sikh thought. The art in this group will have been inspired and guided by an emotional closeness to the Sikh way of life, and where inspiration is drawn is from the ideology of the Guru Granth Sahib. Among other things, an artist can be motivated by his emotions. Although this can help explain whether or not the art is Sikh inspired, it will not tell us if an artist is a Sikh artist. This is out of the grasp for the artist, as this would discount their imperfection. Each piece of art must be taken on its individual merit, while simultaneously evaluating the artist's intention and motivation. One artist whom I've come across, who in my view consistently creates art that is Sikh inspired, is RJX Singh. I believe his content, composition, technical skill and authenticity are also to a very high level. We may also want to define Sikh art in terms of nationhood, for example, the art of the Romans. And if so, we can say the three groups of art just discussed together form Sikh art of the Sikh nation. Because Sikhs have developed into a uniquely sovereign nation, with or without a state, Sikh art should not be perceived as belonging to a certain time period, for example, the art created during Maharaja Ranjit Singh's kingdom. To illustrate this, let's take the example of August Theodor Schoft, the famous Hungarian artist who was commissioned by Maharaja Ranjit Singh's kingdom to create a number of paintings. Here the motivation is to make Ranjit Singh great, not Sikhi. Although one may see how Sikh ideals of egalitarian values are seen in all sections of society, rich, old, young, poor, are joyful in the painting of the court of Lahore. The painting Ranjit Singh at Harmandir Sahib shows a chatra, a royal umbrella above Ranjit Singh in the court of Guru Granth Sahib. The first painting may fit the third group of inspiring Sikh ideology, but the second painting only features Sikhs, the second group, as the motivation is to make Ranjit Singh important, not the Guru Granth Sahib and Sikh ideology. The confusion arises when all three types are given equal honour in the ranks of Sikh art. The art which skillfully elevates the perceiver in society through an emotional journey, in my view, should be considered to be the higher quality and therefore better art. That is not to say we should reject art featuring Sikhs or created by Sikhs. Instead, we should favour art centred around Sikhi-based inspiration. Undoubtedly, propagandist art is often provocative, and when created by other nations, whether maliciously or not, should be put aside in favour for honest art. It is important to note these issues exist within all mediums within art, not just painting. Currently, there is some confusion as how Sikh art should navigate cultural influences. In recent times, the influence of Christian art has come to the forefront in discussions regarding the quality of artists, such as Kanwar Singh, who has occasionally composed his subjects in paintings with hands folded, light-skinned, and wearing clothing similar to that which would be seen in Christian art. For example, in the painting Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj, Mata Sahib Kaur looks almost identical to the most of the paintings of Saint Mary Magdalene de Paris. Where this may seem to invalidate the art for some, it is likely to be symbolism borrowed subconsciously rather than an intentional copy. This example raises an important question. Can Sikh art carry cultural influences? We should not forget that culture is not homogeneous between a group of people, and in fact, even within a group there are differences, known as subcultures. Wherever we are in the world and whatever our social situation, there can be no escape from influence and symbolism from other cultures. It is therefore impossible to create Sikh-inspired art without other influences slipping in. We must accept this reality and focus our intention on what is truly important, the motivation behind the art. Does the art depict the Sikh personalities as an average person? Or does it use the symbolism to show a new, unique power, and does so in a relevant manner? The combination of content, composition, technical skill, and authenticity gives us a framework for recognizing good Sikh art that inspires, as opposed to Sikh art created for historical and descriptive purposes, or for the benefit of other communities. Culture is hard to define. Yet, it is incredibly important that a society creates, preserves, and promotes culture in order to understand itself. Sikh art provides us a framework to understanding the existence of wider Sikh culture and how it plays an important role to the collective memory of the nation and in the daily lives of the Sikhs. I would argue that we should focus more on the validity and excellence of art itself and not so much on the artist, as a Sikh artist is not necessarily creating only Sikh art. The gold standard of Sikh art arises from a place of inspiration and inspires a Sikh to connect with Sikhi, will always be remembered and cherished for generations due to itself containing stronger Sikhi. Because the term Sikh culture encompasses a lot of different ideas, forms of art and manifestations, we may need a new name for this most important and powerful type, the gold standard culture and art, Guru-inspired culture and Guru-inspired art.